good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Adam with the Theory, and welcome to another episode of Adam's Theory. And right now, I have Antonio with me because he was really upset with me today that I haven't done a video in a while. So he pretty much wanted me to actually do something. So I was like, since you like being in my chair all day, I decided that you was gonna go and say something. So go ahead, Antonio, talk. All right, you don't want to talk. All right, fine. You can leave. All right. So, uh, all right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll be with you later. Anyway, so as I said, I've been away for a little bit. I do apologize about that. Things have been crazy, but I'm here now, and I definitely will be here next week, even though that is Thanksgiving week. I will probably be talking to you all with a turkey wing in my mouth. All right. So today's video is about the levels of Dungeons and Dragons and what they bring. See, since this is Adam's theory, today I have a theory. And my theory is that as you level up from level 1 to 20 in Dungeons and Dragons, yes, you do get something. Okay, you get an ability, you get more spells, but I also do feel that you lose something as well. And I don't feel like we kind of talk about that enough. So I kind of want to open this discussion up to you all about that. So, as you know, or if you don't know, in Dungeons and Dragons, there are 20 levels, 1 through 20. And in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they kind of separate it into like 4 tiers: 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 to 20. All right. So when I was kind of thinking about doing this video and thinking about the 4 tiers of the levels, it kind of reminded me of Resident Evil. Now, if you don't know, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I think I've played just about all of the Resident Evils, even some of the spin-offs. And I think that when making the video, it made me, each tier reminded me of a Resident Evil game that I played and my experience with that game. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So there's 4 tiers. So in those 4 tiers, I will talk about the first 4 Resident Evils. So the first tier, levels 1 to 5, reminds me of Resident Evil 1. And at level 1 to 5, your your character is starting out. When you start at level 1, your character sheet is pretty much empty. Um, your wizard has 2 or 3 spells. Your fighter has 1 attack. Um, I I think your paladin has a smite. Well, but at not at level 1, but you know what I mean. Everything is really basic. Your character sheet is practically empty, and I think at that level, I think you get the best role play out of that. Because you're not focusing on combat, you're not focusing on spells. The only thing that you have to focus on is the other party, the NPCs, and the world around you. You're building your character up. You're asking your questions about, like, all right, why is my character doing this? Why is my character here? And how they feel about interacting with the other people in the party, the other characters. How does the barbarian orc feel like working with the elf ranger? How does the paladin feel about working with the rogue that's always in somebody's pockets? And I think those small interactions really builds the it just builds the sessions and stuff. I always go back to my games when I was playing in with the Feather Toes, and we was in Waterdeep, and It was just levels 1 through 5, and we would have sessions where we wouldn't have any combat, but we would play for 3 or 4 hours, and so much would happen because of all the dialogue, all the little side quests that we got going on, and it was exciting. However, there wasn't a lot of combat because of the fact levels 1 to 5, any combat can be deadly. All right. I have played the Lost Mines 2 or 3 times, and that first encounter with the goblins has taken many, and I say many character sheets. So at that level, if you're in for the combat at that level, you're really not going to get too much of it, and I don't think that's at that level that's what it's about. It's more so of building your character. That's why I reference it to Resident Evil 1, where it's the basics. You're just in the mansion, going through a bunch of rooms, fighting some zombies, dogs. You may get, nice little hunter every now and then, but it's just the basics. And I appreciate it for that. It was simple, it was straight to the point, and I liked it. Just like be it having a character at level 1 through 5. The next level, 6 through 10, also known as Resident Evil 2, is, I think that is my favorite tier. Like Resident Evil 2 is my favorite game out the franchise. Resident Evil 2 is the best Resident Evil 2 game, period. If you want to debate with me about it, by all means you can. I'll be happy to prove you wrong. But at this tier, I think that you get the best of both worlds. I think that you at between level 6 and 10, you could tell the most. You could tell your story. You're still interacting with the characters. You're still building your character up, but at the same time, you feel like you're doing more in combat. I think at that level, the martial classes they have, and they got 2 attacks. They could have more abilities. They got more maneuvers. The wizards they have their signature spells. They got their fireball, their lightning bolt, their fly. Clerics got their spirit guardians. Everybody, you feel like you come at your own. You're your own hero now. All right, and I feel like that is the perfect experience. The perfect tier, and I think that that's a reason why a lot of adventures end at level 10, because I feel like that is the tier that's the most balanced, spell wise, combat wise, but also at the same time where you're not lost in your character sheet. You can still focus on the role play and not in your character sheet trying to figure out what spell you got to use and stuff. Then you get to 11 to 15, also known as Resident Evil 3. And that is where we hit the little bump in the road. Resident Evil 3 was where I felt like you saw the transition of Resident Evil being starting from a horror game and trying to be an action game. Where when it introduced the dodge mechanic and you're getting all these crazy weapons. I mean, I think in the ending you beat Nemesis with a railgun. Okay, so at the levels 11 through 15, that is when the spells start to get they start to get complicated, a little bit imbalanced, unbalanced in my personal opinion, and that's when the multi-classing shenanigans get like crazy. And when I'm in combat, sometimes it could take forever because the wizard is trying to figure out what spell to use. The sorcerer is adding and subtracting sorcery points. Us warlocks, we get one more spell slot, so yay. And so things get a little bit more complicated, with it. It's not too bad. You could still do some role play and some story elements to it, but I think at that level, you're more leaning towards what your character could do in combat and less of the role play element and building your character's story. And then you get into levels 16 through 20, also known as Resident Evil 4. That is the Resident Evil where they just said, you know what? We're not a horror game no more. We're just straight action. All right. Leon Kennedy went from a rookie cop in a small town in Raccoon City to saving the president's daughter. And that is levels 16 through 20. All right. You have the ability to alter reality, destroy whole cities. You're practically fighting Godzilla. And yes, there is a D&D Godzilla that you could fight. So, and at those levels, there's no story. You're just trying to find out, it's your opportunity to use some, broken builds, crazy spells and stuff like that. Most of my experience at that level is with, us doing one shots at level 20. So, but I've played a few campaigns where we actually went to those levels. And by that time, we're not doing no role play. We're demigods, and we're pretty much trying to save the world, reality, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it and stuff, And I'm not even getting into all the legendary items that you could go and find at those levels, all right? That's just going to add on to the complexity of it. You're just in your character sheet, just like, oh my God, what am I doing? What spell do I pick? Where do I go? What do I do? Blah, 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 So, which is nothing wrong with that. Like I've had a lot of fun playing, level 20 characters for the one shots and, trying a couple of spells that I normally don't get opportunity to actually use. So I guess what I'm trying to go and say is every tier of gameplay in Dungeons and Dragons, yes, they give you a different experience. So as a player, you got to ask yourself, well, what do you want in your games? If you're more focused on the role play and and building a backstory and the world building, I think levels 1 to 10 is the levels for you, and you're going to have a great time at that. If you're more focused on pretty much finding broken builds in Dungeons and Dragons and doing crazy combos and fighting freaking gods of the multiverse, then 11 through 20 is, I think, the levels for you to have your fun. Because as I said, Dungeons and Dragons, it's all about having fun. All right. And if you're not having fun, why are you playing? So that is my breakdown of the levels of Dungeons and Dragons, the different tiers of it, and your experiences that you're going to have with it. And hopefully I kind of showed you what you gain, but also what you lose as you level up. But do you agree with that? Do you agree that, as you grow up and everything in the levels that, yes, you are going to lose some of the role play elements of it? Or do I not know what the heck I'm talking about? Leave a comment in the section. Please like, subscribe. And I promise you, I am going to go and see you guys next week with a turkey wing in my mouth. Now, I can't make turkey, so chances are I'm going to go to somebody's house and act like I'm their cousin. And if I don't, then I'll have a cup of noodle soup. All right? Well, see you guys later, and peace.